I want you to show me how you see the world, your fears, your desires, your innermost secrets.
All right. Hello, Internet world. This is Atish, and we are having October's edition of Discord Demo Day. And I'm very, very happy to introduce my guest, my friend, a producer and DJ who I respect dearly, Tim Green, tuning in from his new studio in the UK. Welcome, Tim.
Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So just a quick overview of what Discord Demo Day is all about and a little overview of what Tim Green is all about. If this is your first time tuning in, basically, my guest, Tim and I, we're going to listen through a whole bunch of demos that you all have submitted through my Discord channel. The goal here is to be supportive, to be positive, to push everyone's music to the next level. And we just want to support the community and help everyone improve because sometimes really good feedback is hard to come by. On that note, Tim Green, my guest, as I mentioned, I've been a fan of his music since I think maybe that was your first release on Dirty Bird way back in 2008. Revox, Mr. Dry. And since that Dirty Bird release, he's had tons of killer releases on many labels, Cocoon, City Fox, Bedrock. And recently he's been releasing on All Day I Dream with some really, really nice, beautiful music. You also have an alias up here. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's had some. That track that you did with Justin Marchakos, actually, the fifth. I was rinsing that one like every single gig. But excellent producer across many labels, and he's also a great feedback giver. He runs a Soundbetter page. Where basically you can kind of sign up and he'll give you some really, really high quality feedback. I've signed up. I think last year I got some feedback on one of my tracks from you, and it was really, really valuable. But overall, we're in for a treat here to have Tim because in addition to being a great producer and a great feedback giver, he's one of the sweetest guys in dance music. And it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Tim. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here, dude. And it's just an opinion, but I'll give my insight as much as possible. And I think people can take whatever they want from it, you know. I think that's always what it's about. I think it's just opinions and just you take what you want. I think it's kind of the best way. That's the way I always see it, you know. So, nobody's right or wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're just two people with our own points of view, and take it or leave it. But hopefully, it helps.
Exactly.
So let's just start with one. How have you been overall? Let's just say since March 2020.
I've been good, man. Like super good. As you said earlier, like this is a new studio. I just moved house. I'm still in England, and I haven't completed this room yet. Like it's still got a lot of. I need to treat it. I need to do like various different things to it. So it's a little bit like half set up at the moment. But I've been working in it so far quite successfully, even mixing for people as well, and getting really good results. So I can trust the room already, which is quite nice. Quite rare to move into a place and just kind of hit the ground running. Everything else, life is good, like super good. You know, being a dad, I know we can both share like very similar stories to that because both our children were born pretty quite close to each other, right? I'd say was it 3 months apart or
Yeah,
something?
my son was born in January, and when was your daughter born?
October.
October.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of going
So
through the same phases right now.
exactly. Yeah, my daughter just started walking last week, which
Oh,
is just
congrats.
like insane. Um, yeah, it's amazing just watching like this thing try and balance her way through life. It's amazing.
Aren't we all trying to balance our life?
Exactly. I know exactly. Yeah, I know. It makes like it cracks me up every time. Like me and my wife Sarah, we're trying to teach her so many things, like how to sleep well, how to eat, how to walk, and I just feel like hypocrites because I don't think I've mastered any of those things yet. I'm
Yeah.
still I'm still trying to learn how to sleep. Like I don't know, and I'm trying to teach my daughter. It's like I'm hopefully she'll find it out before I will, and she can teach me. So
Well, absolutely. And there's this thing, my parents said, and I hear many parents say, which is we always want our kids to be a better version of ourselves when they become adults. So we want the best for them, which is sometimes better than what we have.
yeah, I mean it's kind of a pie in the sky. It's stupid to always like just desperately strive for always better for them, but it makes sense, and it's the same with anything. You should always aim higher than you should always have dreams. You should always aim as high as possible, and try and do the best for your children. And I think just love is obviously the key ingredient, and I think that's mainly what kids want. They just want to be loved and know that you're there for them, and that's the rest kind of doesn't matter. It's just extra sort of a thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Have you been gigging recently with
yeah, quite.
Baby in Tow?
With what? So
With Baby in Tow? I'm just curious. I've been trying to figure out how to balance being a good father, being a good husband, and being on the road. And I'm trying to figure out. I'm just curious. How has that been for you?
it's been okay for me. I think like I waited a long time to start touring again after the pandemic. Like I just selfishly and also responsibly. I was quite happy having a life just with my partner and my daughter, and just having her grow, and so I waited quite a long time. And honestly, I think we just picked kind of like the right good time, that now she's a little bit more sort of stable. I guess
Yeah.
is probably the good way to say it. And my wife is sweet enough to sort of look after her when I'm sort of going on tour, and my parents come and help,
Oh,
and we've
nice.
got family here and everything. So it does help. It's not easy. Like genuinely, it's not, and it's I don't know what the balance is yet. It's but like I said to you at the beginning, like you just try and survive, and you get through it, and everything seems to be all right on the other end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at the moment it's kind of all right. I think it's going to be things. It never ends with kids. Like there's always something new that you've got to. There's something goes wrong, or something you've got to adapt to. There's flavor of the week that she's not enjoying, or something, and so yeah, you just have to I just get on with it and just try and enjoy it as much as possible, and work it all out, and just know that it's constantly changing. And I feel like it's getting easier and easier, and you just adjust like anything. You find your balance. But yes, I've started touring again, and I get miserable when I'm away from her. Like I really
Totally.
do, like
Totally.
miserable. Which is really bad, because it's like it's so enjoyable to tour and play music and everything, but there are just moments when, like, oh, I really can't wait until they can kind of like both of them can come on tour with me or something. It'd be incredible. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, all the same. It's so many complex feelings, like being on the road, especially after the pandemic, or after so long in the pandemic. It's like, oh, it feels so good to be playing again. But it's like, oh, look at him babbling at home. Like I should really, really be at home right
I
now.
know, yeah.
The other, the other thing I kind of noticed, like the three phases of life for me. One, when I was single. Then two, when my wife and I got married and moved in together. And three, having the kid. Each phase, it's my music career has become less and less about me. Like when I was single, I get an offer, I can just say yes. Oh yeah, I'm gonna take it, like nothing to think about. Now it's like, okay, there's an offer for a weekend. Let me talk to my wife. Let's see if there's childcare. Is there a nanny available? Can parents come in town? And
Yeah.
it's so interesting how the thing that was just all about me is now all about the entire family, and that's kind of a new calibration to kind of figure out.
Yeah, and I think also the I think generally as well, like it puts your life into perspective because you're not the most important person anymore. Your child is, and you just realize, and that's such a beautifully sobering sort of sensation when you get to that, because and then you're just kind of like, I stopped stressing about so many other things when she was born, because I was like, that crap doesn't really matter anymore. All that matters is like my daughter. And now I'm the clarity that I have when writing music now is much, it's much clearer, weirdly, and I'm happier, and I'm just kind of, and I have much less time than I ever used to. But when I get in the studio, when I do anything now, it's just you're really time conscious and making and efficient. That's what I found with me anyway.
I've like the value of a minute or an hour is completely different to when I was single or before I had a kid. It's like an
Exactly.
hour is like gold.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane what you can do in an hour now than versus before. It's so different, and it's amazing. Yeah, like I love it. Honestly, I'm really happy, like super happy. So
Likewise.
it's all good stuff. I think.
Well, I hope our kids can hang out someday, and
Totally.
when we're both at a festival or anywhere really.
Yeah,
Um,
probably Burning Man. Let's be honest.
Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about your kind of musical journey. Offline, we were talking about the sound you had with your first Dirty Bird record, and then transitioning into, let's say, Cocoon, and then City Fox, and now into this All Day I Dream sound. Um, there's different phases of Tim Green, and there's also a branch of Tim Green, with your alias up here. Is this something that you consciously thought about, as you were moving forward in your career, saying, I want to define myself by this sound, or something that just kind of naturally emerged, saying, oh, this feels good, or this kind of thing? Like, how does that evolution in your sound, or how did it take place, and how does it take place? I guess both.
I think it's probably several things, but I think a little bit of always frustration and sort of restlessness was kind of like the first things that kind of would set it off. So, like, I never wanted to be too what's the word? Just complacent with what I was doing, and I always, I was always kind of looking for something else. I was always kind of looking for the next thing. I wanted to make sure that I was always feeling challenged, but equally at the same time, I was able to work within a genre or a subgenre, whatever you want to call it, that allowed me to genuinely express myself, and get my music out there, and for me to be able to just have like an open platform for me just to do whatever I wanted, within the realms of dance music. And I think I had moments where I would find that, but I never was completely happy with the different sounds that I was doing. And I think I was experimenting, and I think I would move on and experiment with something else, until I just sort of, would find something that I thought was really what spoke to me, and I'd run with it, and I was just always having fun, I think, and I think there was moments where I wasn't connecting with the music that I was writing, and so I'd kind of move on, and usually I could kind of probably plot it out with my personal life as well. Not that anything drastic ever happened in my personal life, but you go through moments where you're not as happy, and you have happier moments and stuff, and I think it was just kind of reflective, and I was just sort of, you grow up in life, you're still trying to work out who you are as a person a lot of the time, and so the music's kind of similar, I think, and the music is me, it's my personality, I think. So I was just, I was just going through the emotions, I guess is probably the easiest way to say it, and I was just, and I enjoyed the ride, I enjoyed it, like it was good fun, and I worked with so many good labels and people, and I got to, I've always sort of been able to, I guess, morph myself and sort of sort of be quite diverse with my music, which is, I guess that's the other thing also, is like diversity for me in music, and being able to be diverse and have like kind of a range and a palette of colors that you can, the more colors you've got, the more interesting your music's going to be, so if I, because I've gone through so many different genres, I can pick and take bits from all of those things now that I never used to do when I started. Like I was still trying to find my feet and stuff, and now I kind of have more weapons to my arsenal, whatever phrase you want to use.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, and I think so for that reason as well. Like I just, I'm always quite happy to push myself and just try different sort of sounds and things, and that's how I feel like I've gotten to this point now, I think, and I've sort of found a style of music where for a long time I haven't really been too happy with the stuff I've done. I know it might be good, but it's not like, I never felt like, this is exactly what I was doing, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew it wasn't necessarily always my favorite sort of thing. It ebbs and flows, I guess. There's sort of different things about it, but
Sure.
yeah. So,
Cool.
did that answer your question? I can't even.
Yeah,
remember.
it answered my question. And the quick follow up before we jump into the demos is, I always find it interesting, and I've thought about myself. When you branch into an artist alias, as I mentioned a couple times, like the Appear alias.
Mm.
I mean, all the music that you create, it's an authentic expression of Tim Green. But what's the strategic idea, behind putting something under an alias and keeping something under Tim Green? Just curious, how do you strategize around that?
Well, I guess the easiest way for me to compartmentalize the difference between Tim Green and Appear is that, quite obviously, as you and anyone who knows my music now has probably noticed, the music I'm doing now is much more sort of I wouldn't say much more musical, but has much more musicality to it and more instrumentation. Much more a lighter sort of a sound, I guess, as well. It's not as banging as I used to be as well. And so to do music like Appear, the sort of Appear stuff, is sort of, still sort of the stuff that in my mind, it feels like it's the sort of music I was writing a while ago, and which I still love. But it's just not the main kind of like goal of what the main sort of music I want to sort of pursue, and I still love, of course I absolutely love like techno music, and I absolutely love and everything from like hard techno right up to, the lightest sort of house and everything in between. But I don't have time to produce all of it, and I don't think it'd be beneficial to me or my creativity. But the kind of Appear stuff is still something that's kind of like speaks to me. I've never written like a proper techno track. I never have been like techno. Even when I was in Cocoon, I always felt like I was, not in a bad way, but like the black sheep sort of a thing of the Cocoon sort of thing. I was doing much more kind of like lighter musical, maybe more cinematic sort of stuff. And that was great, and I loved it. And so, I still want to go back to that every now and then. So that's why I set up that alias. I wish I had sort of the time to do more. I've got like, I don't know, 30 unfinished Appear sort of tracks, but they're just not finished. Yeah. I've got loads. I just, some of them are like just ideas. Some of them are like almost finished tracks, but I just haven't got around to finishing them. But I will.
I feel you on that. Unfinished work with a baby at home. Well, I love what you're doing with the Tim Green sound, but I hope you finish the Appear stuff, because I just love your stormers. They really.
I will. I'll do it at some point. Adrian, or both of them, like the guys from Adriatic, they constantly, not constantly, like they're being really pleasant with me about it. Like they're asking though every now and then, like, "Oh, finished anything yet?" Kind of thing. So they're like, "No, sorry, not yet, but I will." So yeah, I will get around to it.
I wasn't trying to pressure you, by the way. It was just meant to.
Don't worry. I don't do pressure. It's fine, man. Like it's just the only pressure is me ever.
Totally.
When I put on myself. So yeah, it's just time when I get around to it. There'll be a perfect moment at some point when I'm I literally exactly what I want to write, that type of music, and I'll get back into it, I think. So
Cool.
It will happen.
Right on. Well, what do you say we jump into some demos and start?
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, just what we're gonna do for the stream is I'm gonna try and get through we're gonna try and get through as many demos as we can. There's more demos than we have time for. So anyone who's supporting me on Patreon, I bumped your demos to the top of the queue, and then for the remainder of the demos, we're just gonna try and listen through as much as we can. So let's see if I can configure this correctly. Oops. There we go.
Do you know what, dude? I'm just gonna swap my headphones. I'm gonna use a different pair. Hold on.
Turn my air conditioning off. We're gonna have some dead air for a second.
Okay.
All right. All right. So this first one, I'll just chat a second. Oh, Tim, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So this first one we have from Peeve. He's a Patreon supporter. And actually, I remember you submitted a great demo. I think it was 1 or 2 months ago. So happy to hear another one. Off we go. Nice tight groove so far.
Exactly. Super nice. Oh. Oh, nice. So I'm just going to pause it here. Just a little check-in. Tim, I'll let you go first on this one. What do you think so far? I want to listen to the breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'll pause it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, good call. That was the right call. I mean, that's the most important part is what we were getting to.
Yeah, I think it's got lovely sort of build, really, really nice elements to it. There's not much, so much you would change to that. I would probably, it's the same thing that I say to everyone. I'm always trying to tell people, think about why you're doing each thing and what the purpose is. Like I know it's I always trip over my words. It's generic to put in a breakdown. It's generic to then take out the kick, bring the kick back in. But we all do it. Why? Because it works. It's tried and tested like millions of times. And that's what we want to hear. But when you do it, like you need to give a reason why you're doing it at the same time. So like if you're breaking down, are you introducing a new element, or are you breaking down so that people can have a break from what they've heard? And when you come back in, are you just want to go back to what you've done at the beginning, or do you want to or is it going to like do a switch up so it does something else? And kind of try and express your reasons behind it, and there's like, it's a really nice track, and it's got all these nice elements, and it just feels like this beautiful kind of like simmering kind of a track. Like it's just about to like kind of bubble over, I guess. Like, but it also, it doesn't feel like it ever gets there. And for me, it starts to lack a little bit on the breakdown, because the breakdown starts to really break down and you start to lose like some of the energy, which is totally cool. But then I think when it wants to come back in, it wants to, really like kick it, because it's got something new. So if it was to say like it was now, I would say that when it kicks back in, I like that new kind of like melody that came in on the synth. But the synth started having this kind of like a nice modal kind of like root note change in the bass, which I think just on that synth. And then when it came back in, I think the bass notes should be kind of reflecting that, because I think it's going to kind of like give a bit of a rise to the melodically to the track. So you start to feel like okay, something's kind of you can kind of do this different. It just feels like something's kind of like changed just for that drop. It doesn't have to be a lot, but like as I said, just maybe changing some of the bassline notes. You'll just, everyone sort of feels that, and like it feels like a shift, which is quite nice. But also failing that, like, the other route is perhaps, as I said, like maybe the breakdown doesn't want to break down as much, keep some like the drums and the rhythm going. And instead of it breaking down and then coming back in, like maybe think of it like going up, so that it really starts to like drive when it drops back in. That was my first thoughts.
Cool. Right on. That's great feedback. My overall thoughts outside of that, I mean, I'm just gonna talk about. Man, there's a lot that I liked about it. Overall, I would say I think this is pretty strong.
Super
Your
strong, yeah.
your percussion is nice, tight. You have nice, layering of your percussion elements that come in. The shaker comes in, your little fills, one shots, they fit in nicely. Your kind of doon 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 doon, that melody. One of the one of the regular feedbacks that I give in these demo days is it needs to evolve, it needs to change, so it doesn't feel like you've just looped it. And you do a great job of, you modulate it, you open the filter, you open the release time, it does a little bit, I don't know if that was like a tremolo or some kind of LFO to give it a little bit of a trippy feel. I never feel like I'm fully stuck in this loop, which keeps my attention. And then you have nice sustaining elements with your strings and your pads. So yeah, I'm just kind of spouting off on everything I liked about it, because I think outside of what Tim mentioned, I don't really have anything critical to say. I mean, overall, just to put everything set in context, I think this is pretty damn strong. I think we're off to a strong start.
From a production point of view, you don't need to think about anything. Like the mix is nice, like everything's like literally in the right place. And even in situations like that with the track, that's when I'm like, okay, this is now at an 80% level, where when you start to then push to get the extra 20%, you're onto an absolute killer, and that's what I think this track definitely deserves to need. It just, and I agree with you, like the modulation on the synth was super nice. I think it could be done more though. I think you could do more with that. I think it's definitely, you could do more, even if it's like, I don't know what synth was being used or whatnot, but like there's more than one voice, pitch one of the voices up suddenly, like, by 12 semitones or whatever, pitch it back down again, just fuck around with it as much as possible. You know, those things are like what people want to hear, especially when you're focusing on one hook. Like you definitely, you know, transpose it onto another synth even, you know, like use the same melody, but completely different synth to play it, you know, and it will just switch it up and keep the listener, you know, engaged even more, you know.
Yeah. On that note, and I'm giving this feedback because I think this track is already at a really strong point. Um, you know, I think when I hear tracks that are good, I think about what's the difference between a track that's good and great. And I think Tim touched on that, like your trippy things and your modulations and your octave changes. Like, see how far you can push that. Because while I think this track, you know, if you push it further in this direction, it might check all the boxes. The question in my mind is, what's the difference between this track if I heard it on a dance floor? Would I remember this and would I come back to it? Or would it be a track that fit in the set and I wouldn't want to come back to it? I mean, if I heard this on a dance floor, it would be awesome. This is great. But what can you squeeze out of it to make it something that people really want to come back to, or that they remember about it, or that had a little bit of an edgy feel, or that sets it apart from the rest of the pack? And I think in this one, you can get that with going a little crazier on the textures if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. It's like, yeah, squeezing a little bit more. That's what I meant by the 80% doing, you know, 20% more or whatever. You can definitely, like, this track has got such a great foundation to really, yeah, try. Yeah. And you don't know until you start pushing it. You'll know, you'll find the limit. You'll be like, okay, that's way too far, but I've found something else that I can play around with. And then that can kind of like evolve through the track perhaps, or, you know, but yeah, it's a really solid tune, I think.
Cool. All right, let's jump in to the next one. This is from Pianica and fellow Patreon supporter. Thank you for that, and off we go. Cool. All right. Very, very interesting.
Mm.
It was refreshing to hear something a little bit outside the traditional house and techno box, but obviously it has some clear roots in there. Tim, you went first last time. I'll go first on this one. So I was definitely intrigued the whole time hearing this. It had a nice vibe. Using that sound like a vocal sample. It doesn't sound like everything else. Sounds a little bit quirky, a little bit uplifting, and different. So hats off to that. The first thing that I might so there's a lot of directions we can go on this one. I think the first one I would start with is maybe with the mix. I definitely feel like a lot of elements are fighting with one another. I think that that pad sound that might be stepping into like the bass tones a little bit, and I think if the bass could come through a little bit more and kind of punch, it could have a nice bed for it to sit underneath and feel like it's a little bit moving. Um, the that thing, it's a cool idea. I like it a lot. It's really unique. I wonder if there's a way. So, two thoughts. The first time it comes in the track is like in like let's say around a minute or so in an early section, and it kind of comes on full on where I'm hearing that sample a lot. And then that same idea happens again later in the track. I'm wondering if you can kind of scale that back, maybe using that sample less frequently, or maybe you filter it down, or some combination of both. So you kind of give the track a little bit more room to build. And then maybe after the breakdown, you can hammer that a little bit heavier. So we've kind of gone somewhere directionally with a higher energy. Um, Interesting that it's only 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So there's since there's less time, I think perhaps there's more room to keep the listener engaged. I mean, I guess you could say that about a longer or a shorter track, but I felt like the first breakdown, I wanted a little bit more to kind of keep me stimulated rather than just dropping some elements out. There's already a very interesting sonic palette here, and I think there's room just to do even more kind of weird, interesting, unique stuff there. Um, and then the last thing I'm gonna just throw in before I let Tim jump in, there was something that happened around the end in the bass line. I think it started happening in the end where you add like a little syncopated note here. It was like dung 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 dung, something like that, and that really got my attention. I was like, "Oh, that's really really interesting. That's cool," and it just kind of made me spawn the idea of thinking maybe there's room to one run with that more earlier in the track, or even having two different bass textures, so you have two kind of bass sounds playing off one another to give it more of a galloping feel, or to make it feel a little more bouncy and lively. um, if you're not doing that in the whole track, and if I only heard it at the end, that could be a room to play with, to kind of give it some more life. And you don't have to do it every single time, but just once in a while to make it feel a little bit more alive and lively. But overall, I like the idea here. It's refreshing to hear something that's different. Is very pleasant, very nice, and very unique. And yeah, Tim, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I agree with that. I elaborate more. For me, it's the two parts. First of all, a lot of the end, there's an issue there. I think especially because it sounds to me like either the bass line or the key, either the stereo amplify is that,
Oh,
which is
Tim,
that right?
I think I see your connection speed has dropped a little bit, so your voice is getting a little choppy. Um, Maybe we can. I'm not sure what we can do. You're on Wi-Fi, right? Let's see. Maybe, and you did just have a full 10 out of 10 on your connection a couple minutes ago. Um, I wonder if maybe just in the
Should
intro.
I pause Netflix for a second or?
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there a way temporarily until your connection comes back? I'm wondering if there's an option just to disable your video and go audio only. Um,
Should I change the I'll change down to the definition. Maybe
oh yeah, yeah.
that's gonna help.
Yeah, let's lower you down from 1080 to 720. And I see that you got a connection bar back, so now you're at 3 out of 10 instead of 0 out of 10.
That's weird. Is it better now if I talk?
Yeah, it's super smooth. So yeah, resume where you
Okay,
left
cool. Yeah, so I really liked the track as well. Like I thought there's some amazing elements, but yeah, the mix thing, if I remember rightly, it sounded like there was a delay happening on either the kick drum or the bass, which is a weird thing to do. Not saying you can't do it, but it's weird, and it just creates more problems because you're just doubling up, and especially when I think when the sub was hitting at the same time as the kick, it's in the same note, so you're getting kind of mix issues in the lower end, which is usually where most people have mixed issues. And I think some side chaining can definitely help to go with the kick, or even some fake side chaining like LFO or something, automation or something, just to give it the kick drum to breathe a little bit more so that the bass and the kick aren't fighting with each other. It's kind of standard stuff, but on this track, I think it would be really helpful. Maybe tone down the delay a little bit if possible. But from a sound point of view, there are some really interesting sounds in there, and I really liked it, and I liked the vibe, like all these weird kind of, you know, felt like jungly kind of sounds, kind of atmospheric and stuff. But the kind of the main pad, it just continued all the way through. Like I think it needs to drop out at some point. Like it needs to change. Like you need a little bit of space in the track. And I think just killing it for a short while, or even like I don't know the second half of this track or something would be really nice, because it would give the track a little bit more room to breathe. And then the sounds on top, I think, would just kind of like soar over the top, which would be really nice, and you'll get to hear them a little bit more. And the listener, and then maybe you could bring back in the pad. It's quite simple stuff, but I think. I think the sounds just need to be brought out more and also utilized more, because they're kind of getting a little bit, just played like here and there, I guess, and they're getting played and then not utilized, I guess, in like an instrumentation point of view, like as if it was a lead instrument. I hope does that make sense? Like extract more like what the elements you've got there, and kind of like use them to your advantage, rather than just like sample that's dropped in sort of thing. Try and make it a little bit more, I think, as you touched on as well, I think maybe have the sound evolve a little bit more rather than just coming in like and staying the same all the way through. I think that evolvement is what listeners, what everyone kind of wants to hear, I think.
Yeah. And one other idea, I think that vocal sample idea is really interesting because it's a quirky sound. You could also play with I don't know if you're using the same vocal sample and repitching it, but maybe you have your voice hit, you have a few different versions of that vocal sample, and you kind of iterate through different hits of that vocal. So it's not just the same sample over and over again. It feels a little bit more alive. And you can also, maybe even if you want, play with it a little bit, maybe glitch it out, play with some grain delay or this, or reverse it here and there. I mean, I'm already excited by the quirkiness of it, and I'm just curious, like if you push, I mean, similar to what I said before, if you push the quirkiness a little bit further, I mean, I would say just keep running as far as you can, because there's a great foundation here as well.
I think that's like a lesson that, or that's a rule that, not a rule, but that's something I think everyone should take on board. And we said it with the last song, we're saying it with this one as well. It's like making elements evolve and making the track evolve is, even if it's one element, as long as there's some kind of like, evolvement, or, even if it's through structure, like you make the whole song evolve. Like you could just literally think of like layering up sounds and sounds, where at the end it's like crescendoing or something. There's just that. I hear way too many songs where people just have elements happen, something comes in, and then it goes back down to where it was before, and then it might do something slightly different, and then it goes back down, and then you end, and it's just not enough. It really isn't. It's not interesting enough. I'm not saying for me it's not interesting enough. I'm saying it's because we are still, most of us, we've sort of grown up in a world where we've listened to real musicians play with each other, where it's live, where there's human elements are happening, like for real. And all of us can relate to like the human voice, because we all have one. And it's never the same. Like, and then every person sings differently. And when you hear how that sort of the soul can come through from something natural, when working with electronic music, you need to try it as hard as you can to try and put in anything human into whatever you're doing. So to try and make it feel less rigid or less, electronic almost, I think, and that goes across the board. I'm not just saying that like because of the music I do. I mean, like banging techno, like also does the same thing. They make it evolve. They make elements sound, like it's been played in, or like it's been played live, or that it's got soul to it. And I think that's like something that everyone should always really think about. And every song that they do, like always, it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be like the biggest evolving song in the world, but just something that has a human element to it. Some people I know that they just really work, like, really work on their drums, just like making those drums evolve or something. Like this, there's so many different ranges of it, but I think it's just kind of just making changes, evolving.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for the submission. Thanks for the support on Patreon. And now we're going to move on to Davka. This is The Partisan. Off we go. All right, I'm just going to jump a little bit forward to the... All right, well, let's get into the break and see what happens. Robert Miles vibes.
Exactly.
just going to jump forward a little bit. All right, let's just in the interest of getting to as many people as possible, let's stop on that much. Tim, you want to lead on this one?
Yeah, I think the break was really interesting. Actually, I quite liked that. I liked the new element that came in, and like how the track came back in and everything when it dropped. I think that was great. I think there's too much time and space between a lot of the elements, though. I'd say, especially in everything leading up to the drop down. I don't know if that was, I don't know if that was like, oh, it needs more elements, or if it just should be kind of like cut down shorter and get to. I think maybe just getting to the point quicker. I think the track would lend itself better to just getting to the point quicker, like getting to the breakdown quicker and introducing those new, like even perhaps having 2 breaks in this song. So you get to that, the break that we've heard is possibly the first break. You introduce those new elements, and then you evolve onto something else again and have a second breakdown, and then go on to something else, or even maybe just to sort of like tail out the track or something. Production sounded pretty good. I'd say maybe the drums, in my personal taste, maybe needed a bit more percussive elements to it. But that's kind of my thing. So I don't know. I'm always hesitant to just say that, but it did kind of feel like there's some really nice like groove kind of going on with it. But in the certain frequency ranges, I think we're lacking with kind of like more of the drums, like something a bit higher, maybe some shakers or maybe some hats more a little bit, or something to kind of like drive the song along a little bit more instead of just being about the kind of the patterns that are already there. That's what I'd sort of say.
Yeah, just kind of running with that idea. I too felt there was a lot of room for some more action in the percussion and fills. I was tempted, early in the track, I was tempted to kind of already jump forward because it felt a little bit loopy to me. So one, I think some one shots, some fills in your percussion, introducing every 16 or 32 bars, or even semi randomly, in unpredictable ways. I think that would keep my attention a little bit more. And then, Tim was touching on either getting to the break earlier or having 2 breaks. Absolutely one way to go. You have this piano line that comes in the middle. You could also expound upon that and set a motif earlier in the track and kind of play with hinting that idea, or reversing it, or having trippy versions of that kind of thing lower in the mix or filtered in. And that serves a double-edged purpose. One, you're filling space with ideas to keep my ears hooked, and you're also kind of preparing me for when the real idea comes at the climax of the track. I wasn't a huge fan. I'm not against the use of a piano. I just wasn't a huge fan of that texture. Specifically, it felt, and I don't want to say, it felt a little cheap to me. I think, to say more positively, I think there's room for really playing with and pushing that piano texture a little bit further to really, really make the track more memorable, rather than something that felt a little bit stock. And that's kind of the overarching thing that I felt about this track. I think on paper it has a lot of the boxes you could check for something that works in this genre, but there's not one thing that really stands out and makes me remember it. So I think a good place to start could be with really maxing out that lead piano sound, choosing a really interesting texture, and go a little crazy with it.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for your submission, Davka, and thanks for the support on Patreon. And we're gonna jump to Sirius. We have 3 more tracks from Patreon supporters. Then we're gonna jump into the non-Patreon submissions, and that's basically gonna be sorted by randomness. So, just want to try and be fair to as many people as possible. All right, off we go. I like that sound. Nice, bouncy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you just literally play it from like the start again and then go back to that quickly? Like, so,
Yep.
I just want it like not, yeah. Or like where the drums kind of like where the kick comes in and everything. Yeah, here. And then go back to 129 where we were. Okay.
Should I pause it or should we keep going?
No, it's good.
You got my attention. I'm gonna pause it here. We're already at the one, or do you want to keep going?
No. It's good.
Yeah. We're already at the 1 hour mark, and we've only gone through like 4 demos. So I want to get to as many people as we can.
Totally.
So overall, okay, 2 things. I'll start with what I really liked about it. One, when you went into that 4-chord change, like about midway through, I love the idea. I love it when I feel surprised. I'm like, oh, where did that come from?
You mean in the breakdown? Is that what you mean? In that moment?
Yeah, I guess it was the breakdown. Yeah,
The big chord, this bit.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. It didn't feel predictable. So hats off to that section. I think we could spend a little bit of time. I feel like I love the idea of the section there. I feel that it didn't get executed perfectly for me into getting into that section. I was taken by surprise, which is a plus, but I think I was a little too surprised. But I would say I love the idea, and there is room to have a conversation about how to get into that section. But I like that, and I loved they had this like lazy kind of the lead sound you had, that came in early on. It was really nice. It had like a little like squelch kind of fat feeling. I wouldn't mind if you randomly took some notes down an octave or maybe even 2 octaves and just surprised me to like really get some fatness out of that sound. I liked it a lot. It felt lazy and kind of fat. So those are my 2 favorite things. Another thing I really liked your clap actually. It was buried kind of deep in the mix and I didn't really realize it. until Tim said, let's go back to the intro. But I like that clap. And I like
That,
some of
that's the reason why I wanted to go back, because I was really kind of like the clap, all of the drums, because I was kind of like,
yeah.
I feel like something had disappeared, but it
Oh, okay.
actually hadn't, and I like just in the whole drum pattern, and I was kind of confused. That the drum pattern is super nice though. Like, is it like
Yeah.
really really cool? Sorry, I'll let you finish your
Yeah,
what you're
no
saying.
worries, no worries. It's conversation. But yeah, the clap and overall perk was yeah, great perk choices. Um, there's a few different directions we could run in on the feedback. I think one I touched on getting into that breakdown section. I think that transition can be handed off a little bit smoother. The ARP that comes in, let's say 30, like before the breakdown, but after the fat squelchy thing, I think that ARP sits well with the other elements, but I think arrangement wise, we went to that squelchy bouncy thing, which is almost an ARP. And then it kind of just faded out and transitioned into an ARP. And that didn't really, it felt too samey. I mean, they're two different textures and two different parts. But for me, I started losing interest a little bit because I wanted something that juxtaposed a little harder against what I was already hearing. So I think in a silo, the ARP worked for me, but I think against what else was happening behind it, it didn't keep my attention enough. Um, I had a couple other notes, and maybe they'll hit me, but I'll let Tim run with it, and let's see if they come to mind.
Yeah, I think I kind of I disagree a little bit with you about the introduction to the chords. I liked that big chord change. I thought that was
Mm.
cool. I like that. That's nice. Because they work perfectly with the song. I think the bit that I didn't like was the evolving kind of like like sort of I don't know what sound it was, like what was just happening in the kind of like the breakdown, because then we kind of kicked back in and then it was just gone. I think because it you probably couldn't keep it continuing, and then it kind of came back a little bit afterwards, had like a slight like reprise and just a note here and there. But I just wasn't into that sound because I think mainly because it didn't continue a little bit. I know it sounds strange, but it kind of like just played and then kind of disappeared again. And to me, it felt like there was a huge energy drop that when the drum kind of came back in. Although all of the production of the drums I really really liked, and I liked the swing of all the track, like the as you said, like the lazy kind of arp. I thought that was great. I did feel like there was more room for like a bit more like layers of percussion and groove, really, just more groove, because there was just moments where it just felt like it was starting to lull down a bit too much, and it was just wasn't keeping up the energy. And I think all of the music was great in it. I actually really liked all of the musical elements. I thought they were all interesting. I thought the song was evolving really well, but the drums just maybe just in moments just could have like jumped up a few notches, just like with a bit more percussion, just a few more loops here and there, just like coming in on top, just to drive the song along. So yeah, I really liked it. I was really impressed by that. But yeah, I think the main point is, as you said, Atish, that and I think it's throughout. I think it hasn't all been executed in the best way, and there's so many different routes that you could go with this song and different versions of it. That choices that you could make. But all of the elements I think are there. I think it's like you got the right ingredients. It's just the way you put the recipe together. I think perhaps just could be done in probably a better way for the listener. More impact and just make it drive along, I think.
Cool. And just wanted to touch on the point where we disagreed. I'm really glad that we disagreed on something because I think that illustrates, we don't. I'm speaking for you, Tim, but we don't want to be overly prescriptive in what we say is the right way to do something. I mean, we're just both different people with opinions. There's no right and wrong. So, hopefully we'll have some more disagreements so we can shine more different, more perspective on where we're
Well,
going.
I mean,
Yeah.
to go into that a little bit further, it really doesn't matter because we're just opinions. What matters is that if you take any of those opinions on board, or if you have your own opinion, it's the way you execute it.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're going to put in, like, if you agree with Atish's idea that it didn't come in, that it came in too abruptly, then that's right. If you then, as he said, like you start to introduce a little bit more at the beginning, so it starts to, you don't feel like it's such a big change. or vice versa, you agree with me, and then you do have it like, abrupt sort of a thing. It's no right or wrong. It's just how you execute it, and that's what production is for, songwriting and everything. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your submission. Thanks for the support. Moving on to Gutsbo. He is one of the students in my artist mentorship program, and it's been great seeing his productions moving along. So let's jump. Actually, we're at the 1 hour mark. So I actually just want to take a second to pause here and talk about a couple things Tim has going on. One, I touched this earlier on. He has a Soundbetter page where basically you can book Tim for 1 hour or as many hours as you want for consultations on your track. He's giving great feedback already. If you want detailed feedback, definitely sign up for his page there. You'll definitely get something really good out of it. I did myself, and
yeah, and it's more than just like feedback. It's like consultation properly,
oh,
so I can jump in with anyone on any session where we can go through. I can help them, come up with musical ideas, structural ideas, having our DAWs open, and coming up with ideas there on the session. It can be like literally anything. I'm there just to help. Production ideas, mixing ideas, anything. Right, literally anything. It's not just feedback. So it's really hands-on sort of stuff and direct. And I help the, whoever out as much as they want.
awesome, cool. I just shared the link in the Discord channel if you want to check that out. And here are some upcoming tour dates Tim has. I'll just run through the list. All Day I Dream. That was last week.
If you've got a time machine, you can
Yeah.
go back.
We got San Francisco on the 22nd, San Diego on the 23rd, LA on the 29th and 30th. Ooh, Bauhaus Houston on the 31st. I've heard good things about that venue. It's on my list of places to play.
Yeah,
Sobe Dubai, November 4th. He'll be playing DC on November 12th. Moonrise, New York on the 13th. I've been meaning to check that venue out also. Charleston on November 14th and Orange Yard, London at home on the 17th of November.
There's more US states being added as well. So I think they're going to be in LA, if I remember rightly. So, but we'll put them up when it's all sorted.
Cool. All right, let's jump into Gutspo, Waiting for You. am going to pause it here. Um, all right, I think you went first last. Oh no, did I go first last time?
Yeah, I don't remember. I can
You
do
did.
either. You
All
go
right.
first or I go first. I don't mind.
Um, I I think I might let you go first because I can't really put my finger on what it needs, but I know it needs something. So I'm gonna rely on your words to go first, and maybe that can inspire me to what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, like this, I mean, it's always difficult because just being able to chat with the artist would be easier to sort of know the direction and the intention of the track. But I guess it's quite obviously. To me, it sort of speaks that it's quite commercial sort of sounding, not in a bad way, but just with a vocal like that, it's hitting a certain kind of a sound, I think. Um, and I think all of the sort of changes are really interesting, and it works really well. And if that's the kind of intention, then I think this track's got all kind of the right elements to it, because there's quite a lot of those kind of like moments where there's several different breakdowns, mini breakdowns, moments where the vocals like just on its own, right, with the bass, which is like pretty powerful, to be honest. I really like the production all the way through. I would say that the one thing that definitely I would be sure to sort of work on is, again, the drum sort of, probably, I don't know if it's the pattern or if it's the sounds, but they're not all like, the kick's super nice and it's working really well with the bass, but I think that the drums could be a little bit more snappy. Like, I'm not hearing like the clap too much. I'm not hearing sort of the things like cut through, and so it feels a little bit too much like a vocal kick and a bass only. It's too many moments, which is good, but then I think it could probably do with having a little bit more energy. I think that it's yeah, it's there's so I think this is there's so many different sort of like options you could do again with this kind of a song, like, but it sort of depends on what the direction is. I already think the direction is good, and I think it really works. If it wants to be like this, if the artist was to turn around and say, yeah, they're trying to make it like, I don't know, a little bit more techno or something, or a little bit more darker, then there'd be many things that you would change, like making the vocal not be so clean and cut and just like sitting on top. But I think for what it is, I think it's all kind of working. I think it's probably just like that. Yeah, as I said, the drums are probably the main thing that I'd say, just from a mix and a production point of view.
Yeah. A sister idea of what you're talking about. There's a lot of high energy melodic ideas in the track, and I feel that the percussion isn't. The high energy melodic ideas are here. As Tim said, it definitely feels like a commercial track, which is great if that's what you're going for. But the drums, I don't feel like they're living up to it. I think a couple things. Actually, I don't want to repeat too much of what you said. If you want to keep strip drums, check out some Patrice Baumel tracks. Actually, he has his tracks aren't as commercial as this, but he has a lot of tracks with vocals, female vocals, and they have a big sound, and they actually don't use a ton of percussion. And what I love about his tracks, they have big room tracks, and he does that with very few elements. And a lot of that is with the mix, a lot of that is with placement and leveling and compression. So I think, yeah, you can go one of two routes, or if not both, which is really clean your percussion in the mix to have them shine through. And you can also get away with maybe adding some more layers to kind of keep up with what's happening melodically. The only other thing I'll add, there's a lot of melodic ideas in here, and sometimes, and maybe I'm not as familiar with the more commercial sound of things, but maybe that is kind of what's needed for this type of dance floor. But I think one of the best things to try to get away with is how few melodic ideas can you squeeze out of to keep the energy in a track high, as opposed to throwing in many different melodic ideas. I think I remember once we started getting near the end, about 3/4, 2/3 of the way, more and more melodic ideas were coming in, and I wasn't sure if that was necessary, or maybe it was a little distracting. And I think there could be a room to squeeze more out of what we already had to work with earlier on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, and I think maybe for this track, I think this probably I'm thinking maybe this is the right way to do it. You know, to have lots of those sort of melodic sort of ideas from the sort of the limited knowledge that I have of the commercial tracks. A lot of them are like that, so I think that maybe that's the kind of goal. But yeah, otherwise you're right. I think as a nice rule, maybe try and have less. Less is more, I guess, as usual kind of thing. But.
Cool. All right, thanks, Gatsabo. Let's jump on to Snowden, Peter's Soup. All right, let's jump a little bit forward here.
Usually I prefer to work alone, just because I just like to make music. I don't like to really sort of talk about it much, like especially for electronic music, because I don't think it's sort of the nature of electronic music. It isn't meant to be talked about, really. I think it sort of undermines it when you start talking about it.
There's an interesting irony with that vocal.
Because like all my friends listen to electronic music, but we don't really sit around and talk about it, we just listen to it. But we don't really sit around and talk about it, we just listen to it.
Going to jump a little bit forward here. All right, I'm gonna pause it there. Tim and I are chatting privately, and we want to get to as many people as possible. So overall, I think this is very pleasant. The groove is nice. I really liked that little kind of thing happening as a percussive layer that I heard early on. Nice layering, nice textures. The organic lead is really nice. Um, I don't really have a lot negative to say. Um, the one thing is, I spoke this over the breakdown. Is it an intentional, ironic choice of the vocal talking about how you can't talk about electronic music? If it's intentionally ironic, it's clever. But I think the downside is I was kind of in this nice floaty zone, and then the vocal comes in, and that directed all my attention to what he was saying. And I'm probably overthinking this, but he directed my attention away from the music to what he was saying, and then all of a sudden he's telling me that you shouldn't talk about electronic music. So I was a little bit on one hand I kind of laughed, on the other hand I was kind of confused. So I think it's an interesting choice, which I might just be thinking to death. uh, I don't really have a lot of critical feedback on this one, actually. The only I think all the elements are pleasant. i would I'm curious what Tim has to say. I would say this fits well within the genre. It feels like it's right, but it's one of those, it's another one of those tracks. It's kind of a recurring theme. If I heard it on the dance floor, I'm sure it would fit in a set, but I wouldn't want to come back to it. There's just not something that really has it stand out from the rest of the pack. That can be in the textures, that can be doing maybe a little bit more in the quirkiness of the groove. And you got me a little bit with that kind of thing. Um, I'm just trying to find the one thing that makes me want to remember this or want to come back to it. But overall, I think it's a pleasant track, and for what it's trying to do, for what I think it's trying to do, I think it does it really, really well. I'm just wondering what's the thing that you can do to squeeze more out of it for me, or theoretically someone to want to come back to it and keep listening to it and set it apart from the rest of the pack. I don't know. Maybe Tim, you can identify what that is. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think there's probably too many little melodies that come in and out, perhaps. I don't know, maybe it's just that sort of stuff bothers me. I think, going back to what you and me both said earlier, Atish, is like, I kind of like an idea just to sort of evolve more. I don't know why. Maybe it's just our personal opinion, I'm not sure. But I did feel like there's few too many little melodies here popping in and out, and wasn't really sure what their intention was. It just felt a little bit scattered, I guess. That was my only thought. Other than that, I really liked so many of the elements of it. I liked just the general vibe. I thought it was super nice. I think it's probably needs a bit more polishing in terms of the production. Just, mixing here and there, like certain levels. That first mini little break part, I thought was a little bit too abrupt, how it just kind of, like it got very melodic very quickly and then kind of cut out and just kind of went back, sort of a thing. Those kind of things I think should be tailored a little bit more and sweetened up and tightened up. So, even if it's like adding transitions, or even if it's trying to not make it so musical all of a sudden, then just go back to the drums and the bass line. I think just like, but I think it's a really good starting point. I would genuinely, I think maybe just, I wouldn't say push it more in terms of like try and add more stuff. I'd say work on the production more. That's what I definitely say this song needs. I think you've got some really nice ideas to it. Like you said, Atish, that kind of, I don't know, that high pitched vocal thing. I really like that. That's really interesting. And I guess also tidying it up for me is also like, there's so many elements that happen too often. Take them out sometimes. I think that there's probably some things clashing a little bit. There are things happening at too often at the same time as one another, and it doesn't need to. I think try and be a little bit more concise with where those sort of sounds are playing. That's it.
Cool. There's a comment on Twitch from the artist. He said he was most concerned with the piano and violin in the mix. My first thought, we don't have time to go back. To me, I think they they sat fine, the violin and piano particularly. But did anything jump out to you, Tim, about the violin or piano sitting in the mix?
Not in terms of a mix. I don't think so. I think there was some stuff I can't remember that from a mix point of view that was jumping out. There's a few sounds that just kind of like seemed a little bit, oh, they're a bit too loud, but it wasn't the violin and the piano. I just think, as I said, musically it jumped out too much at the beginning. Not from a mix point of view. It was just like it was a bit too like there, and then it went away. I know it came back later, but it was just in that first bit. That's the first thing that I thought.
Right on. Well, thanks for the submission, and just to recalibrate back to the baseline. Overall, it's a very beautiful, very very pleasant track. Sometimes, we get wrapped up in all the critical feedback, and we get lost, the forest amongst the trees amongst the forest. But overall, it's a very very pleasant, beautiful track. Nice vibe.
Yeah.
I'd be closing my eyes and swaying back and forth if I heard it myself. All right, let's keep going. This is the last of the Patreon tunes, and then we're going to jump into the random sorting of non-Patreon tunes or tunes from non-Patreon supporters. All right, here we go. Ricardo Angelis or Angelis. let's. All right, let's stop there. See where we're at. Tim, I think I went. I can't remember who went first last time.
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
This is my favorite song that I've heard. Yeah, like just because like those chords are fantastic. The bass is awesome, like super deep, like super, meaty, kind of like lovely chords and different chords. Like I'm hearing like some kind of like nice inversions going on where it's not just, predictable. The timing of the chords is quite nice. The pattern, but it's simple at the same time. There's nothing, over the top, and I think that's quite important. And the text, the actual instruments are really nice. Like there's really good quality going on. The production is fantastic all the way through it. Like pretty much spot on, I'd say. Like the drums, I don't know how good a quality I'm listening to, because you're kind of like streaming it to me. Sometimes it sounds like a little bit over compressed at times, but that might be just the stream sort of thing that I'm listening to. So I don't want to comment too much on the mix, but there was some things that kind of sounded like the whole track at times started to feel like it was a bit too compressed and it was fighting a little bit. It's just a mix thing, but all of the elements I can hear are fantastic, and I think they'd all shine really well if it was just mixed, I don't know, a little bit more, if it was a little bit more relaxed instead of pushed so heavily. I'd say there are moments where I don't know if it's done on purpose or it felt like it was going to do something else, and then it started to go down a little bit more, like through some transitions or some like reverse crashes. And then also kind of like the really long kind of like snare fill that kind of like led up to the break. I get it, and it makes sense, but I'm not sure if it works necessarily in this song, and especially in that break.
Yeah,
I think something else might work better. Because when it kicked back in, like I think you could have played fart noises leading up to that, and it still would have kicked. It sounds great, like it would have sounded amazing. Like when it kicks back in, it's freaking awesome. But just it kind of, for me, it kind of like was too strange, the snare fill. I think it sounded a little bit too wooden and programmed, sort of a thing. And I'm not saying that you need to, do a real snare fill into it. I'm not even sure that a snare fill is what it needs. I don't know. It needs something to build up, perhaps, but maybe not something that. Maybe not that. So kind of that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think this is pretty damn polished. Sounds really great overall. I have somewhat strong opinions on snare fills myself. I think this track didn't need a snare fill. I appreciate tracks that can build and drum up energy without resorting to a snare fill, for lack of a better term. I mean, they work, they're great. Sometimes they're exactly what a track needs. This track could do without the snare fill. Just in the interest of time, I don't really have much to add. I mean, overall, this is really, really great. Hats off. You should be proud of this one.
I want to be sent this track, actually. I like this. It's really nice.
Awesome. All right, let's just move forward. Just trying to get to as many as we can. This one is from Pinkowitz, Impromptu Retreat, version 0.14. just jump a little forward, not because anything's wrong, but just because we're tight on time. Sorry, I feel so bad jumping forward, but all right, I'm gonna pause it there. Sorry, I was kind of jumping through a lot on this one just because I'm feeling squeezed for time. I want to get to as many people as possible. Overall, the intro, when that little hang drum came in and the supporting, I forgot it was pads or strings underneath, it had my attention as something really beautiful. It had me hooked. I felt like, and I'm partially guilty for jumping forward, but then a lot of different musical ideas were thrown on top here and there, giving the focus to different kind of lead musical ideas. I, similar to what I said before, I question if you need that many lead type musical ideas to, you might have enough for maybe 2 tracks here. Most of my notes that I wrote down were in the break. I would like to preface by saying overall the vibe is really, really nice. Has a nice bounce to it. It's very beautiful, kind of somber and pretty at the same time. The break I felt was a little too long. There's that piano, and it's kind of wandering around, and I wasn't sure where it was going. And then, there was a buildup that happens, and I felt it was really dragging a lot out of the break. And there's also a sparseness to it, which kind of made it drag a little bit. There was that hi hat happening in the background. Um, and I wanted a little bit more to stimulate my ears. There could be some kind of background texture, some subtle kind of things, and I also wanted a little more focus on what the idea is during the break as well. And then also the bass. I wonder if you could play with the texture a little bit, to have it kind of, I don't want to use the word pump, but to kind of cut through or to kind of bounce a little bit harder. It feels like a soft bass texture, and I think the track can kind of gallop a little bit more with something with a little bit more punch to it. But overall, it's a very pleasant vibe. Nice sounding tune.
Yeah, I mean, I again, I disagree with some of the stuff you said. Again, just as an opinion sort of thing. I
Great.
quite liked. I really liked all of the different sounds, and I really liked how it sounds almost silly, but I liked how you heard like most of them in the beginning, and then they reprised at the end. I really I liked the groove. I liked the bass line because I thought it was so hypnotic and repetitive in a good way. I really liked that. I think that the track on a whole is possibly too long for what it is, in terms of, I did feel like it dragged at moments and there wasn't enough evolution perhaps. But for me, again, yeah, just as Atish said, I think in that breakdown, the piano was just a little bit too noodly, maybe, just sort of doing like some notes, and it didn't feel strong. Like, I think that's what it is. It wasn't. And when you're gonna have a moment where you're just serving up a piano, just to sort of play its part, like, it's got to be really strong. It's got to have a voice, that it's got to have reason behind it, why it's there, what is it doing. And I just think, and I don't know if the track even necessarily needs it, and if it does, maybe the piano should be a little bit more as a texture rather than like a lead sort of a thing. Like maybe affect it a little bit more, maybe have it a little bit more distant, playing sort of like some nice notes, but at the same time you've maybe got some of the percussion still going. Because when it kicked back in, I loved that. I thought that was great. I didn't like the hi-hat leading into when the kick comes back in after the breakdown. I think the surprise of the kick was I quite liked. So yeah, I just think that that breakdown is probably the weakest part of this song, but the rest I really liked. I just think maybe you can get to the point a bit quicker. That's what I'd say. So maybe make the track a little bit shorter, perhaps. But yeah, cool idea, cool vibe, I think.
Awesome. And I'm really glad that we disagreed again. That makes me happy. All right. Jumping on to Sturge. And then after this one, let's take a listen through one of the tracks on an EP coming out on your label. But let's jump to that after this one. Going to jump forward a little bit. All right, let's jump into the break a little bit. All right, I'm going to jump forward a little bit. All right, let's pause it there. We're approaching the 2-hour mark. Tim, you can lead on this one. Unless you want me to. I have some thoughts.
No. I'm more than happy. Like I really love this song. I really love it. It's got a lot of character to this. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of character. Like such a weird melody. I don't know what kind of sound it is. It reminds me of like I'm trying to pinpoint what it reminds me of, and I can't. But it's got a very kind of obviously like an 8-bit sort of a feel, kind of like it feels like a computer game kind of a exactly like it feels like a throwback to something, but it doesn't. But I can't work out what that is. It's got kind of like a Japanesey feel to it because it reminds me of like a couple of Japanese composers. I don't know. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting song. I like it, and like even when it kind of like kicked back in, it was kind of like it's wicked. I liked it. I think it was super interesting. You know, like I don't know what I think because I can't pinpoint what it is necessarily. It's kind of hard to reference and then give any criticism or constructive feedback on it in terms of anything. I just really like it. I thought it had a really good vibe, and it's got a really nice kind of I feel like it's got soul, like I feel like it's got a voice.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's super interesting.
I can't put my finger. Oh, sorry. I didn't. Am I cutting you off? Or
no. I'm good.
I don't want to repeat too much of what Tim was saying, but it had me hooked in the end. Like, if I was to write down all the elements of this track, and in a traditional 2021 house track and this kind of thing, it wouldn't properly check the boxes. But there's this intangible thing. There was a great quote. I forgot. It was from Rival Consoles or from someone said, like, the best music that we listen to isn't about technical prowess. It's about tracks that make us feel something. And I felt something when I heard this. I don't like the melody line didn't really like make sense to me. I'm not sure if this was trying to be a house track or like an electronic. I don't know what this is trying to be. I'm repeating what you're saying, but it made me feel something. A nostalgic vibe. Like I don't know if it's like proto house or what. Anyway, I don't want to repeat all the things that Tim said. I guess I just want to emphasize what you said. It made me feel something. I also don't really have feedback on what to do with it because I'm not sure what it's trying to be, but I would like to hear more of your music.
Yeah.
Just to see what else you're doing. There's something there. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, and let's be honest, like at least in everything we've said, it's original. And that's something that is people don't strive for enough nowadays, unfortunately. They try to sound like something that already exists. So I think, this is like super interesting. I like this one a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, it was really, really refreshing. Cool. What do you say we take a quick break from the demos and we just listen to a little snippet of upcoming track on your label?
Yeah, which oh yeah, is it my remix?
The Izhevsky remix.
Yes, yeah.
Your tune. And yeah, just in the interest of time, maybe we'll just kind of jump to the middle and
skip through as much as you want.
Okay, cool. This just for context, this is a remix album. It's coming out November 26th. It's called In the New Light on his label called For a Memory. And there's a bunch of other remixes from Matthew Johnson, who I'm a mega fan of, and Kunum, Janice Rasmussen, Volin Sentir, Lost Desert, and more. All right, I'm just going to jump right in here and let's get a taste of the Izhevsky remix of your tune. right, jumping into the break. Tim's telling me you can skip. Don't feel worried. I want to insult you. All right, I'm going to skip a little bit more. Gorgeous. Really, really nice tune.
Thanks, man.
I mean,
It's weird to remix your own song, and this is like one that Ian Nazevsky did to me.
Oh, you both did the remix together. Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We both did it together on this one. We worked together quite a lot, and this came up, and we're like, yeah, sure, let's do this together, sort of a thing. So it was fun. Like it's weird. It's really nice to have someone else to do it, because we talked about this earlier. But if I was to do a remix of my own track on my own, it would probably just sound exactly like the original. Because that's how I wrote the original, sort of thing. Everyone should go and you can go and listen to it properly on SoundCloud or wherever, and listen to the whole album, because there's some really good remixes. The rest of the remixes are all by other artists, just them on their own.
It's a great release overall. Lots of
Thanks,
awesome
man. Yeah.
All right, let's keep this train moving. Tim has been gracious enough to lend 30 more minutes of his time, so we're going to go until 6:30 p.m. Eastern, and now we're just going to do, let's call it the power hour, and we'll ruthlessly jump through tracks, not because they're bad, but just because we want to get to as many people as possible. All right, I'm just going to jump right in the middle here.
Yeah, do it.
This one is from Petty Touches, by the way.
For a minute or two. Because it makes me feel funny.
All right, jumping forward to that next chunk there.
I think we all do get strange thoughts. And I just can't. Well,
That chord is
it's
fantastic.
too embarrassing. I'm not telling you.
I like his profile photo too, or the artwork.
Because it makes me
Yeah.
feel funny.
Great vocal, like all the way through. Voice snippets, like super nice.
I mean, you ever have a thought where your mind just wanders off into some unknown world, and it captivates you for a minute or two? Do you ever? I mean, does your mind ever play tricks on you?
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
There's something to this for sure. It's
Super
dark,
good.
it's mysterious, it has a vibe. That vocal is cool. I like a lot. I mean, I like it a lot. It doesn't sound like everything else. It has this like kind of fresh, but still this kind of almost like a throwback to like a Brookson and Watt track in a way. But then this piano comes in. I mean, lots of stuff I love about it. The only maybe I can't speak to the arrangement. Maybe the only critical thing is maybe this would be something for a remix. If it like some more movement in the bass, or if it just like galloped a little bit more, and maybe even in the percussion over. I mean, it's a stripped tune, but I wonder if there's a little bit more room for detail work, both in the bass and in the highs in the percussion. There's some nice stuff happening in the mids, but I don't even feel strongly about it. I mean, it has a vibe. You're doing your thing, and your artwork. You just look like a badass too. I mean, overall, hats off. This is super, super cool.
I literally have nothing to say. I really like this song, like
right.
straight up. I think because it conveys to me the direction straight away. Like, I get it. It works. Everything's really well placed. Like I never was bored. Always sounded interesting. I think this song's like fun. If you want to push it more, like what you said, I think you're totally right. You could add a few more things, have it change a little bit, but equally it works as it is right now, because if it wants to say that kind of, yeah, exactly. You could keep it like this and creepy, and it works. It's great. Like, but if you want the scope to push it, and it would still work. I think so. It's cool.
Yeah. Petty touches. Send me some more of what you got.
Me too.
All right, super cool. Great. That was a good power. We spent only a few minutes on it, and we got something good. All right, cool. I'm gonna jump in the middle. This one's from Moya, called Ira, and I'm just gonna jump right in the middle here. Really nice textures.
Super nice.
Okay, I hate to pause it because I love it so much, but I mean, I think my opinion is pretty clear. I mean, I like this a lot. It's in this. So I should have let you go first, Tim. But the texture is beautiful. It has the chorals. When the groove comes in, it's fat. I could 100% imagine Lee Burridge playing this at at All Day I Dream, and people just having a moment. Yeah, really, really nice. I mean, one thing. Oh, maybe I should. It's a long conversation, but I think within the world of organic house and let's say the big movement that All Day I Dream has made, I think it's harder, and we've kind of touched on this many times in the stream. It's harder and harder for artists to kind of stand out within that genre, because it's become so popular. It's kind of defined a sound, and I think this is one of those things for me. It just kind of stands out as special amongst the pack.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Moya is actually supporting me on this week. I think in San Francisco. I'm assuming it's the same artist, so I'm quite interested about that. But I really like it as well. Again, like it sounds like too compressed as a mix. Like it sounds a little bit too intense. But it might be just because I'm we're streaming this thing. I don't know. And it could be, so it sounds a little bit too busy at times. It sounds like a little bit too like it's desperately trying to push along too much. But I don't know if that's a mixed thing. I'm not sure. But the elements are fantastic. Like that, the choir voices are freaking wicked. Like really nice. I love how subtle they are until they just kind of break through just before it kicks back in. Yeah, very interesting. Like really, really interesting track. I want to hear it properly, to be honest. to give a better judgment. But yeah, there's nothing we can say to that. Like it's a solid track, man. Like super solid. So and yeah, send me the track. Send me this one as well.
Yeah,
please.
send that to me. And if you ever go in a direction doing like really, really weird stuff, send it to me as considerations for Manjumasi as well. Because I like what you're doing.
There's Mr. Zach Walker.
Sorry?
There's Mr. Zach Walker in the chat. Yeah, he is
Zach
over
Walker.
here. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Cool.
Nice. Well, I'll be able to hear him play it on Friday then.
Awesome.
So that'd be good.
This one's from someone we both know, Justin Marchakos.
There's the man.
Yeah.
Is he in the chat as well?
He was earlier. I'm not sure if he's
okay.
still
Cool.
But Justin and Tim have collaborated on a couple of tracks, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's jump into the middle, go through the break, and see what he's got.
Nice.
I always like to hear stuff from Justin. I'll just stop there. Tim, what do you think so far?
I'm going to say the same thing I always say to Justin. Like the only thing I don't like is the like the horn sort of sounds, because he always puts him in his tracks and he doesn't need it because his tracks are just so fucking good anyway. Like they're just not needed. And he's got all these cool fucking squelchy sounds all the way through, like different synths and different like evolving bits. That's like the only thing I'd say. I love the strings. I feel like I've heard this before. And we've spent so many hours in his studio that I might have done, but I'm not sure. Maybe he will tell me if I have or not. I haven't. And it's really the thing is small on my screen, but I'm wondering if he's called it Hero.
Yeah, Hara, Hara.
Oh, Hara. Okay. You'll have to tell me what that means later. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, overall, yeah, this is a stormer. Would definitely work in a club. Has some sophisticated ideas in there. And actually, Tim, I think what you identified, that thought didn't cross my mind, but after you say it, it's almost kind of like the snare roll kind of thing. It's like a little tropey, and if you can get away without doing it and still get the same impact, it kind of takes the level of sophistication up one level.
Yeah, and that track doesn't. I mean, all of Justin's music doesn't need it, in my opinion. Like every now and then, sparingly maybe, but just like he doesn't need it, in my opinion.
But yeah, overall, it's a stormer. Sounds great. Sounds sophisticated. 100%. Good stuff. All right, we got 17 minutes left. Let's jump to Andy Immerman. This one's called La Pause. nudging forward a little bit. Cool. Sorry, we're only listening through like 2 minutes here. Overall, I like that bass line. It has this like almost it reminds me of like almost like a old Hot Creations kind of vibe back when like tracks were like really kind of like dancey. I like that bass line. I like the chord progression. I like that there's a little bit of dissonance in the upper layer, which is like
That's my favorite bit.
Yeah.
Like that dissonance, like it's super nice. Like it works
Yeah.
super well. Gives that like eerie kind of like feel, but not like too blatantly obvious. It just gives that nice juxtaposition kind of a feel, vibe between in the music. It's quite nice. I like it.
Yeah, those are my two standouts for the tune. Overall, the rest of the tune felt nothing like really jumped out at me. I think if it weren't for that dissonant thing, I would feel like this is a tune that might get kind of lost in the pack. But I can hold on to that melodic idea and get excited about hearing that. And it has a nice basic groove. I like that.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I think work on the drums a little bit more. Like some of the hats and stuff, they felt a little bit washy and a little bit programmed and a little bit loopy. Like, I think they just need tightening up a little bit. And I don't know if that's a mixed thing with the drums or, again, I can't hear perfectly on these. But just could be improved a little bit. Just I don't know, spend a bit more time on the drums. But other than that, I really like the vibe of the song.
Oh, all right. Continuing on the Power Hour, this one is from Zaidoki. And I'm going to jump just before the break. And as the pre-warning, I might jump through the break because it looks to be about 2 minutes.
Good production there. Sounds nice.
This is a sophisticated sound. I like it. All right, I'm just gonna jump. Cool. Tim, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think the production is like spot on, like really, really nice, mixed nicely. Everything cuts through. It's good kind of like vibe to it. I'd say the breakdown is too long. I'd say, and maybe like when you're going to do something that long and it's going to end up being obnoxious, and if you're going to be obnoxious, you've got to do it right, and you've got to really have a reason to be obnoxious. Like it's got to be something that's just going to be I don't know, like repeating and warranted to be repeated so much. And I just think it felt to me like it's probably dragging a bit too much instead, and just doesn't need to be. It's a really nice part that you evolve, like you can hear it evolves quite nicely. I think just do it quicker, because just, everyone's attention span's shorter nowadays, but people, especially on a dance floor, when you take the kick out, the only thing they want is the kick to come back in. So don't tease them too much. Like don't make them sweat. Just give them a reason for when it comes back. And when it kicks back in, it sounds awesome. Like it sounds fantastic. Like really, really solid. I just think it, just didn't need to be that long. I'd say.
Yeah. My 2 cents, very sophisticated. You had my attention right, when we jumped in. I don't have much to add. I completely agree about the breakdown. One thing this is completely personal taste and absolutely valid to disagree with it. When it started doing the melodic progression in the breakdown, I was kind of like, my heart wanted it to just kind of be like a single kind of more on the techno side kind of stormer without going in the direction. I have nothing against prog. I play a lot of proggy tracks, but my heart kind of wanted it to stay mean rather than kind of going in the uplifting thing. But that's totally an aside. Overall, really sophisticated stuff. Chop the break. I'm going to go back and listen to the whole tune. There's definitely something here.
Yeah, I think you're right though as well. Like that, to do that change, if you're going to do it again, like do it really warranted. So like make it something really. I think anyway. I think like really extracting instead of just like a few bass note changes. It doesn't do much, Like I think you're right. Could it probably be more interesting to sing it.
Cool. All right. I think we have time for 2 more, maybe 3. And this one's from Polo, Argentina, called Heavy Heart. Let's jump into the middle. Nice bass. I'm just going to jump forward. God, I want to keep listening to this, but
there's nothing wrong with this song. This song's fucking great. Like I love this. Like please send me this track as well.
Send me this track too. Definitely play this. Haunting.
Me too. Just pumping, but still melodic and like rich. Like it's very nice. I like it.
Yep. Please send to me and Tim. All right. Hayden J. Shadows in the Desert. Jump into the middle. Interesting one.
Another interesting one. Yeah, it's. Oh, sorry. Did you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
No. The like really interesting ideas. Like I like. It's such a weird kind of regression. What it sounded like when skipping through it, but interesting. My the thing that I didn't like, which is a big issue for me, is that that melody, that kind of like synth melody modular thing, is playing in major over the top of those pads, which one, well, depending on where you look at it, but essentially like one of the chords is minor, and you can kind of get away with it when it's filtered, but when it's opened up, you can hear it quite substantially. So there's it's like a weird kind of a vibe going on there. So and I was quite interested by that because I thought, oh, this song's gone from minor to major. I thought it was really cool, and it could do that, and it should do that because I think that'd be interesting. But they're just not gelling with each other. So you sort of need to either change the melody to minor or change the chords to fully major. It's what needs to happen. So.
Yeah, my 30 seconds. Yeah, there's a melodic clash that I felt, but I liked the twists and turns that this took arrangement wise. I wish we had more time to kind of see how we got to all these different points. And that's unique. And then it kind of goes into this organic thing with the chanting and the talking, which I appreciate. The texture, I appreciate the kind of old school, almost 8-bit texture. I wonder if you can play with evolving that texture a little bit more because it's kind of getting drilled in my brain a bit. And maybe even playing with like the delay times and this kind of thing, just bring a little more life out of that texture, and maybe getting it to sit in the scale a little more nicely. But there's something to it. There's something to it that I think this has potential for it to be set apart from the rest of the pack. All right. I think we have time for one more, and then we'll wrap it up, Tim.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Let's just jump in the middle here. All right.
Wow.
I'll let you run with that one, Sam.
I want breaks to make a comeback. That would be great. I miss it. Great to hear. That's really nice. It's a really interesting song. Like really great elements all the way through. I didn't know what was going to happen at any point, which is fantastic. I love that. Like I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Kept it interesting. I don't know if there's much I'd change, really. Like maybe when it kicks back in, perhaps could do with a little bit more of a push, but equally it's had this nice kind of like opened up and then just went down to the kick and the bass, which on a big system is going to pump the hell out of it and it's going to sound great. So it works. It works.
I have a confession.
Is it you?
It's one of my tunes.
I should have known.
Not just me. It's a collaboration with an artist from India, Viridian, and we're working on an EP.
Oh, cool.
I haven't played this for anyone before, so it's nerve-wracking, but glad you dig it.
I thought it was wicked, man. Yeah, but again, like listening on the headphones, I wasn't sure, like when it kicked back in, after the breakdown or whatever. It just, I can hear that it's not like perfect kind of sound that I'm listening to. But maybe, as I said, like it could be like kind of like triumphant, kind of like a bit of effects and stuff. Maybe that's what it needs. But equally, the way it is, as I said, like could just be, it's just gonna work. Like I love it though.
Cool.
Great stuff, man.
Thanks. We're
well, you're gonna have to send me this now as well. So
yeah,
whenever it's done. So.
Yeah, when it's done, it's a process. But glad you dig it, and it's always. I did this with another artist before, and I'm gonna take this opportunity again. And on closing notes, it's scary putting yourself out there. Sending music to friends, sending music, whether it's to Tim on Soundbetter or me through my Patreon, and then doing this all on a live stream. I mean, whether or not we got to your tracks today, first of all, hats off for everyone for having the courage to submitting your music and putting yourself out there. That's the first step to making it anywhere. And I'm just really glad, we have this program. I'm really glad that Tim was able to volunteer his time. I mean, 2.5 hours when you have a baby at home, I know does not come easy. So just big thanks to Tim for doing this and helping out the community. And you can also support Tim if you found his feedback to be helpful through his Soundbetter profile, which I pasted in the Discord. Did you have a good time, Tim?
I loved it, man. I think it was great. Thanks very much, for having me, dudes. I could do this all day, all night. Like it's interesting. There's so much good music out there, like really. And I think I just want people to kind of, I would never do anything like this. I didn't even play my music to my manager or to my wife until it's like 100% done. And even then, I'm not happy with it, So I'm happy that people do all of this. It's good. And just a takeaway thought. I said it before, but the originality is way more important than how good your production skills are or how similar you might sound to someone else. Like the original stuff is genuinely like what everyone will comment on and be like, oh, that's interesting, that's different. Like it's if you have that at the beginning, you can work on the rest. But if you just spend all your time on just trying to just produce and just trying to sound like everyone else, you're losing creativity, in my opinion. So
absolutely.
And I think today's proved it, in my opinion. There's so many great, fantastic songs. I was honestly, I didn't really know what to expect, but I was genuinely like pleased with so many of the songs. Like most of them, genuinely, like all sound great. So it's cool. Good producers out there.
Yeah, and it's always great when the level of feedback that we're giving is, how do you push it from the 80% point, to the 90 or 100% point, which is a testament to the quality. And of course, if you're submitting feedback, that doesn't mean that the only demos that are allowed are things that are sounding almost amazing. I mean, different levels of their journey, and everyone can learn and take some steps. But hats off to everyone who sent their demos today, and big thanks, Tim. Really appreciate you lending your time and doing this.
Of course. No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks very much for having me.
All right, and we'll catch you all next month. Guest TBD. And sorry for those that we didn't make it to, but if you want to guarantee a spot next time, you can support me through Patreon, and we'll bump you to the top of the queue. And hope you all have a nice weekend, a nice Halloween, and catch you next month.